Sorry. Good evening, everyone. May I please request everyone to settle down? I suppose I'm too late to ask that. So, welcome to India House, the High Commission of India, and it's a pleasure to have you all here. Today we have, as you know, amongst us, George Kipouros from Wanderlust Magazine, and he'll be in a small conversation. With Ms. Amrit Singh from Trans Indus. So before going any further, I would give some credits which are due for this event. Thank you at the outset to Wanderlust. Obviously, there will be a formal vote of thanks at the end also, but I thought at the outset. I'd also like to just inform that this event has also been supported by Hotel Lalit and the restaurant Baluchi. The surprise is at the end, actually. I can't reveal right now. And also by Here and Now for the media support that they have given. Before starting off the event, may I please request the High Commissioner to give an opening address for this wonderful evening. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Jaspreet, and thank you, George and Amrit, there you are. Thank you most of all, friends, for coming here. Welcome to India House. I use that here in the UK. Travel, ladies and gentlemen, we all say is to broaden the mind, widen your experiences, offer you a taste of something new, offer you memories to take back, offer you a glimpse of another world. I am, of course, biased. I am Indian, but I will say this. In the 31 years that I've been a Foreign Service officer and I've had the opportunity to travel to wonderful parts of our wonderful planet, no other country is a world in itself like India is. By that, I don't just mean the sheer size of it. 1.4 billion people is a lot of people, but the sheer diversity of it. No other nation has more languages, more ethnicities, more diversity to showcase in every sense of the term, in terms of the number of cooking media that you might use, in terms of staple grains, in terms of what we define as edible, from roots to shoots, from plant to animal life. Everything in India is enormously diverse. And that, as they say, is also one of the reasons, as Mark Twain correctly said, India has 2 million gods, all of whom they worship. In the land, in the counting of spirituality, the rest of the world is a pauper, only India is a millionaire. Erin Rees, an actress, had a great story about traveling to India. She says, anybody who travels to India usually has 3 trips. The one that you think you're going on, in other words, the one that you plan for, the one that travel agents like you prepare your guests for, the one that you actually have, the real trip that you have, and most importantly, the memories that you keep with you thereafter. No trip to India is the same. You might start up in the Golden Triangle, visiting Delhi, Agra, and Jaipur. Your next trip, perhaps, could be in the deep south, where everything, the food, the topography, the weather, is vastly different. And your subsequent trip could be in the east, all the way up in the northeast. You saw some images of the Second World War memorials in Kohima. It could be in Assam, or it could be in the far north, in Punjab or in Jammu. in India alone, leave alone anywhere else in the world. And so it is that I think the best thing that we can do to promote India, and to promote travel between India and the world, and promote through that understanding between people, because fundamentally that's what tourism is all about. It also promotes, the money is good, the airline businesses and the hotels, I'm sure, thank you for your work. But the reality is that for us in governments, the most important thing is that it promotes understanding between peoples. After all, how can you dislike people whose food you eat, whose clothes you might wear, and whose friendship you take back with you? That is the most important value of tourism. But if tourism is what we're trying to promote, and if understanding is what we seek to achieve at the end of it, then the great value that we get out of having you visit us, and the great benefit that we have from having all of you here today, is to have you tell the story. Because, after all, my colleagues and I are paid to do that. But you, on the other hand, make a living from doing this. So your word had better be more credible than mine. And in you getting to tell the story, we rely on you to give us your sense of India, your narrative of what India you took back with you, one of your 3 journeys at least, not the one you planned for, but certainly the one that you took back with you. And in doing so, tell us what we might do to make available in this unique city, London, which has so much of a connection back with India, going back 400 and more years. What might we do better? I know there's a whole bunch of things, but begin with the practical. What could we do better to make this shared journey more meaningful to all of us? Let me thank my colleagues, our Deputy High Commissioner Sujit Ghosh and my brilliant young colleague Jaspreet for putting this event together. Let me thank you, George, for being here, and Amrit for carrying out the conversation. But most of all, thank you all for investing a Thursday afternoon with us. We really, really look forward to the conversation after this and to the surprise that Jaspreet has kept tucked up his sleeve. Thank you very much.
Thank you, High Commissioner, and I promise you the surprise is finger-licking good. So, my mandate was to introduce George from Wanderlust and Amrit for Transcendis, but I think I won't do that. I'll ask Amrit to do that. So, please welcome Ms. Amrit Singh from Transcendis and Mr. George Kipouros, from Chief Editor of Wanderlust Magazine. So, they will be in conversation. I've seen them being in conversation. George is real fun. I'm sure you'll really enjoy that. And the only thing that I could say is, let's, sorry, I'll not say that. I think what I was trying to say is, they'll be in conversation for 30 to 35 minutes, and look forward to that. Maybe have the slides, please. Thanks. Remotes. Oh, sorry. You have the mics.
Hello.
Hello.
Can everyone hear me? Good. Excellent. Thank you, Your Excellency, for having us here. It's an absolute honor, and I hope we will encourage you to do a lot more in terms of tourism here in the future. But this is an enormous honor for us, and we thank you very much graciously. I also want to thank Jaspreet and Dr. Sujit Ghosh for doing so much work and putting all of this together, and all of you for coming here. My team in particular, who've also done a little bit of work in the background with me to host this, and to all of the guests who are here. Right. George, I want to thank
Hello,
you.
dear Amrit.
Hi. How exciting. It's almost like being back in India, isn't it?
It feels like it.
Okay.
We're in Indian territory technically as well, so we are back in India, Amrit.
Absolutely. Well, George and I traveled for 2 weeks together, and we found a great deal out about each of us. Let me tell you a little bit about George. George is a serial entrepreneur, and he developed an IT company, sold it, and then his real passion is travel. So he then bought himself a travel magazine. But we've got the founding editor of Wanderlust here. Lynn, thank you so much for starting this magazine 30 odd years ago so that we could have this evening here. And George, for coming in at the head of the magazine and asking to go out to India and choosing Transindus to do this. Now, you had taken trips to almost 100 different countries before you chose India. And you know how upset I was with that. But tell me, why did you leave India for so long?
I was starting with a hard question from the start. The embarrassing one, I would say.
And
Can you
then
imagine?
what made you go there in the end?
So first of all, as you can imagine, working for a travel magazine and a team of very well-traveled writers and reporters and a team, me being the only one who hadn't visited India made me the laughingstock at some of the editorial meetings. So I've got to say, did this play a part in my choice? Not really. I'll tell you why I was very hesitant in doing the India trip. It was not because I didn't want to. It was because I wanted to do it right. And what it meant in my head, doing it right, meant that I wanted to spend like a month or 2 months. And I wanted to go everywhere. And I wanted to understand everything. I didn't just want to fly in and just do like the sights and tick off the boxes. I wanted to feel what is one of the world's most ancient civilizations, one of the most diverse nations. And I think the more I was reading about India, at Wanderlust no less, Wanderlust has featured India on its covers more than any other country on earth, by the way, in its 30 years. So that's a real love affair for those of you that know the magazine. The more I was reading about it, the more I was, I want to use the word scared, but I really didn't know where and how to start. I wanted to see it all. I wanted to understand what I was seeing. And that meant time and energy, and I just kept putting it off because, let's face it, India, the world's most populous country as of last year and this year, fits the UK, France, Germany, Belgium, Netherlands, Luxembourg, Poland, Denmark, Switzerland, Austria, Czech Republic, Croatia, Slovenia, Montenegro, and more in its territory. That gives us an idea of the size. Meanwhile, I've visited all of those countries, spent time looking at them, and I just thought, when is it that I'm going to find a month, 2 months, and the energy to do it, until Amrit came into the picture and said, George, you're complicating this too much, didn't you?
I said, yes.
And she encouraged me to start with the basics, which is what we're going to talk a little bit about, but we'll try, because most of you, I gather, have been to India. We're going to share some of the changes in those basics, if you like, and how they are. And the basics being the very famous Golden Triangle. So when you came to me India saying, Amrit saying at the start it's going to be the Golden Triangle, I dismissed it. I said, no, I'm an experienced traveler. I don't want to start with what everybody else is doing. I want to go I said, George, there are so many secrets to what you think is a well-trodden route. She invited me to go to India with her. The queen of travel, of Indian travel in the UK, Amrit, 35 years of Transindus this year, the oldest tour operator dedicated to India with a lot of expertise, not just on the subcontinent, but all of Asia as well. How could I resist?
But George, we started off with Delhi. What I wanted you to see was that you wanted a luxury perspective. Because that's a lot of what the Wanderlust readers want. And I wanted you to see and experience some of the luxury, but also the history ingrained into that luxury that comes. So we started off with the Imperial Hotel. Which not only is a beautiful hotel. It's the pinnacle of all hotels in Delhi, but it also has reflections so much of Lutyens Delhi. It is a Lutyens building, and it's the building where all of the details of the partition were thrashed out. in its conference rooms. This is where Nehruji, Gandhiji, and the viceroys of India and so on sat down. So once you know those sort of details and perspectives of the place that you're putting your head down at night, it just elevates the experience. So no matter how many times you've been there, it was the details that I wanted George to experience, and that's why we went and took this journey slowly, and so we could find out the details. How was the experience in the Imperial?
Can I check in? Has anyone stayed at the Imperial Hotel in Delhi? Higher hands, please. Quite a few of you. So you know
This
it's
is
special.
the front door of the Imperial, so this is where we started off.
Oh, is that? Oh my God.
Oh
No, I've
my
not
God.
seen these photos either. Blame jet lag. It's.
Oh, no,
We talked about the luxury element, and the reason why Amrit wanted to have a higher end experience is because so often some of our readers were telling us India, you know, much more of a backpacker destination, much more of a, you know, destination of, you know, you can do it in budget, but also India boasts some of the most affordable luxury experiences in travel on earth. So we're talking about the top hotel in India. And when I saw the rates, well, there are many top hotels in India, I'll take that back, even in Delhi. But one of the most historic and renowned properties in India with entry-level rates of under £200. Good luck getting a room here in London in the weekend in a 3-star under £200. So that put in perspective to me of like how accessible a luxury tourism and travel experience was in India.
absolutely.
Because we want to make our trips accessible to our readers, to the vast majority of our readers. So a high-end trip in India is going to cost a tenth or you know, or even less than what an equivalent trip in the US or Canada would, for example. So that was an important point for me.
Absolutely. That was the wrong picture. These are some of the interiors of the Imperial Hotel.
That's a special place.
It was such a special place, but really, it's the artwork. You need to invest a little bit of time in exploring the artwork. So no matter how many times you've been through India, take another visit and explore just the artworks of the Imperial and other palaces. We also managed to arrange a visit for George to go inside the President's Palace as a special access, and that can be done for others if they
So
choose
it's not just
and wish.
because I'm with Wanderlust, you know, we do get perks. Yes, you can all be jealous. There are perks to working for a travel magazine. We get behind-the-scenes access, but at Wanderlust, we only commit to writing about experiences that can be had by every traveler. So it's not just the things that we experience. And you know the story, you're just bypassing it like this. So we were exploring Lutyens Delhi, right, New Delhi, the green, beautiful oasis that is there.
Yeah.
I was saying, and I saw a big part cordoned off, which was the presidential palace, evidently where everybody wants to be. And I just asked Amrit, is it possible to visit it? It's like, George, it might be, we'll see. And of course, within a few days, it came into the program. It would have been the same for any other, you know, traveler who had shown the interest, because I was really keen to see the architecture, appreciate the art and the inspiration inside it. The only thing Amrit didn't arrange was a meeting with the President of India herself, but we came as close to her office as
Your
possible.
Excellency. Fine. We also went off and found another corner which a lot of people don't usually visit in Delhi, and this is the Gandhi Smriti. Sadly, this is the location where Gandhiji was shot. But these are beautiful gardens. It has an amazing museum attached to it, and a lot of the history of a period is all displayed here. And we found it an interesting visit, and I think George too would agree with that.
It was my first stop just as we landed. For those of you that have visited, how many have visited India? Can I see a share of hands, please? A show of hands.
Most of the room
Most
will
of you
done.
have, yeah. Growing up, Gandhi, if I'm allowed to say, one of the greatest humans ever to step on this planet. They're right behind me, yes. For me, it really represents India. So it was really special for me then as we landed on the 101st anniversary of his birth, birthday. So the date was significant. I was taken straight to to this location, to his home.
Yeah.
And if you haven't been in years, the exhibits inside are really fresh. They've been redone. The stories are very interactive, and I felt so emotional. It was the beginning of a trip, and I realized I was, stepping into history. Home, yes.
Gandhi, right. From there, we headed off into some ruins. These are at House Khas, and then into Old Delhi. Tell me what your impressions of Old Delhi wasn't the same, or
Has
was
anyone,
it?
has anyone been to Old Delhi? I'll keep asking you just so you don't fall asleep. Yes? Wonderful. So Old Delhi apparently has changed a lot. I had heard and read at Wanderlust primarily how this is one of the most India places in India. Very vibrant, very, an attack on your senses is what we described it. I loved hearing that. Amrit was like, George, be prepared. It's different to New Delhi, and different it was, because obviously you're stepping back into centuries of history.
So we took him into the deep end. In Delhi, I thought George is a consummate traveler, and he must experience everything. And he coped very well. But
It's not a question
it
of
took
coping.
time.
I thought it would be a question of coping, because let's face it, you do hear stories. I have had some friends that, tried some questionable food stands in Old Delhi, as you will have. I mean, you can try some questionable food stands in London, as you have it. I had heard, I didn't know what to expect in that sense. But it was, again, one of those moments where in India you feel the magic of humanity coming together. We saw stores of, 5 or 6 generations of tradespeople still there, still smiling, offering us tastes without actually, that's one of the things I'd love to see more in London. People are so stingy, you pay for the water. And you're in India, and we were walking around, people who don't have a lot, evidently, in some of the parts of Old Delhi, ready to share whatever they had. And the smells were intense, and they were different, and they were new. But it was just all so very, again, when we travel for difference. We travel for the exoticism. We travel to experience new things. And there are few places on earth where you experience more new things than Old Delhi. I absolutely adored it.
You did a great deal of research for yourself, and this is what you wanted to see, the Jama Masjid. And there was a particular perspective of this. You wanted a certain image, and this was the image George wanted. I couldn't organize the Friday prayer on the day of the week we were there, but we had to go off and do things to get this.
There was, so one of the key sort of targets that I had in my trip when I was discussing with Amrit was to go deep into the culture and history of India as much as I can, because obviously there are many stories to India, but a little bit of modern India, as well as some of the different empires that have left their mark in the places where I was going to visit. And Jama Masjid, obviously, one of the masterpieces of the Mughal Empire, one of the prototypes of mosques around the world, so special. But what made this shot that I wanted to recreate, as we do, we're the generation of recreating each other's shots. Not an easy task to get there, was it, Amrit?
It wasn't. It was, a challenge was put to me, Amrit. I want to get high up and take a photograph. So we had to find a little secret alleyway, and then we had to find a key to a door. We had to clamber up over some works that were going on, repair works, and we found an image that George was happy with.
I think this is not exactly the image. The image is a little bit, there's probably one that's, where we are up in one of the fortifications surrounding the mosque. I think it might come in a little later.
No, I haven't put in.
I mean, it's a very similar shot. one of the things that you'll find in India is that if you ask with a smile and you explain what you want, things will happen. And you know, people just have a tendency not to say no to Amrit. It's a gift. It's a gift. So we very kindly asked, and we explained why. We showed them the photo that had won the award, as in the guards there, and with a smile, they accompanied us up. You know, it was like me asking for special access to the Duomo in Florence so that I could take a nice shot of the Duomo. I don't think I would have had the same response. So, as a traveler, we live for these special moments when things sort of happen. And they didn't know I was a journalist. They didn't know that, you know, I was there to promote India. All they knew was that I was a person that was genuinely interested in their country's history and culture.
And people helped, yes.
They did help, and this was a pattern that we would find for the duration of our trip.
This was one of your images, George. This I found very exciting. I hadn't seen one like it. It's the Seesganj Gurdwara with the red fort at the back. So well done for taking that. And Lynn, maybe we ought to enter this somewhere in a competition. This is quite new to me. It's very unusual angle. And
I could spend days taking photos of Old Delhi. If you guys have been and you like photography, it's just, you don't know where to look, or you don't know where to smell either. So it's kind of like, it's a competition of your senses, which one gets activated first.
So people smile at you, they wave at you, they welcome you along. And then we shot off across town, back into New Delhi to look at one of the UNESCO World Heritage Monuments of New Delhi, Humayun's tomb. And I was personally quite surprised there. The gardens have been laid out afresh, anew. They were lush and green, and I was surprised. Parts of Delhi even surprised me, although I travel there every year, several times a year, but you don't revisit old haunts, and I was very, very surprised, and I think I keep saying, do take another visit, but to see the surroundings of Humayun's tomb will be well worth it on another visit. What were your thoughts of this?
I mean, it is spectacular. You do expect to see some of those. This is obviously a very iconic site of Delhi. And for someone interested in art and architecture, it's among the first pieces of architecture whereby the arch that the Islamic art and architecture is so known was perfected. And you can see the commonalities with the Taj Mahal, can't you? We just make it white. It's not difficult to see how close we are. But the thing that I want to notice here is the blue sky, right? And you say, well, blue sky, why is that important? Because coming in, I had read so many stories on multiple news outlets that Delhi's, you know, foggy and smog is everywhere and you can't breathe and it's difficult. And, you know, we were in the off season as well. I found that, you know, the quality of air, living in the city of London as I do, sometimes it was better in Delhi than what I have here. So we've got to also, like, one of the things I wasn't expecting was the blue skies that were consistently there for the many days we were in Delhi. I get that there were problems with, then there are seasons in times of the year when the conditions aren't great, but that's not the case for the entire year. So when people are considering city breaks, I can't see why Delhi shouldn't be on their list.
I think Delhi makes an admirable city break, and a lot of the time people will come in. They want a hill holiday before going off into Simla or going further up north. They will spend a few days, and I think it makes a wonderful city break. Just 3-4 nights there. And
so much to offer, and dozens of museums and sites. And I understand from what you tell me that there's been a lot of improvement in how they look and how easy it is to get access to them and how easy
the road
tickets.
Access through Delhi has improved an awful lot, and the access into neighboring places. So now we have the Delhi-Mumbai highway opened up in certain parts. And to get to Jaipur, it's 2/3 of the time that it used to take. To get into Agra, it's half the time it used to take. So it's a very, very well-connected, very accessible place now. So arrive in Delhi, spend a little bit of time there, and then connectivity is absolutely fabulous. So there's,
It's a great base.
really-
The airport is new, it's fresh. It took me 10 minutes from the moment I landed to the moment I was in Amrit's hands,
Yeah.
and the driver's hands, in their capable hands. That don't have the same infrastructure. The reason why I'm saying this is because my expectations were different. You know, I had different I was expecting all Delhi to be all of Delhi, but that was not the case.
This was my favorite place. This is where I like to be. This is where I go back repeatedly, but again, the Qutub Minar. And this takes you way back into history. One of the things that I wish I was allowed to show the image, not allowed to show it in a public forum, is a very old image of when the Qutub was built. And there are hundreds of miles of space all around it, and it completely stood in barren land. Now it has lush green gardens. It was designed as an outlook post by, I forget now, Qutubuddin Aibak. Yeah. Yes. And so now it is one of the places where you can go and relax, and the gardens again have been elevated. The visitor center is nice and fresh and new. So these are the places that one ought to really be speaking of and visiting.
How many of you have visited the Minar? Quite a few. Isn't it brilliant? It's one of those places that is like the Tower of Pisa, but less commercial. And where, you know, again, the human ingenuity, how could we... Exactly.
Yes.
How is it still standing? How did we build this so early on? And how did we build such beautiful buildings and the skyscrapers we are only able to get in London as they are? It's just, again, one of those moments when Delhi surprises you with the rich diversity of its architecture.
Absolutely. Now we're heading out from here, away from Delhi, and we were going to head off into Agra. But before we did that, this is where we landed up. And this is the President's Palace. This is the quintessential palace of the President. And George, this is where you had the special access to. And we got into this room.
And there's no one else as well.
Yes.
So.
And we got into each of the offices, into the main office of the President as well. The only room that we didn't get into was the residence beyond. Out came a little key, which we didn't expect, and the final few rooms were opened up for us, which was very nice. And then George, tea was served for you. Did you enjoy that?
It was a really special experience to know how many events that shaped not just the history of India, but global history were in there. It's probably one of the most beautiful presidential palaces anywhere in the world. And the fact that the public, including visitors from abroad, are afforded access is really special. It's not an easy process. You do need a tour operator like Transcendus, probably only Transcendus from the UK will be able to give you that access. But it makes a real difference if you like to have a guide, as you will, inside the building. And I'll tell you what, that afternoon tea we had at the end rivals any major London luxury hotel. It was really special. And again, something that any visitor would do. It wasn't put out specifically for me. So next time you do your city break in Delhi, make sure to include a visit in the Presidential Palace.
We'll need about 3 months' notice to do this. We managed the one time with George on the spot, but 3 months' notice and we can get there. Right. We headed...
panel in the roof, in the ceiling there, that is one single piece of leather. It's actually a fresco done on leather. And the entire ceiling is of course fresco. But the central panel, the round piece there, the central circular piece, it's entirely pure.
A leather panel with the fresco painted on it. Do we know the artist, sir?
The presidential palace have that detail, I don't remember of that.
We're told that detail, but in the end, there's not much you.
There was a great deal there, and we'll find out, and we'll use it because this we thought was very special access. This is where all the viceroy's balls used to take place. So it was. We did wonder if we could take a whirl, but resisted.
I mean, the style of it, you spoke about the fresco, and now you got me excited. I don't want to bore people with my kind of like, what is it? So it's an Orientalist fantasy, obviously. The scenes there aren't really India. It's how artists wanted, international visitors to see India. So there is a little bit of that element in there, we've got to be aware, but it's so beautifully done. Once you're there, your eyes are taking in scenes of Maharajas and great temples of different religions, obviously. You've got the elephants, you've got the processions, you've got all sorts of fascinating costumes and dresses, and it's multiple stories and it's one story, and you just don't want to leave that room, especially knowing how many incredible people and how many important occasions have been celebrated in there. So a real highlight of my trip in India, having access there and having no one around.
Thank you. We then headed off after this to Agra, and I think this is the entrance of the Taj Mahal. But George, you wanted to visit Agra for a specific reason. Yes, to visit the Taj Mahal, certainly, but it was the art and the evolution of art that took place in Agra. So maybe you'd like to take us through Agra. I'll sit quietly and you take us through Agra.
That little thing, take it through Agra. I mean, of course, the Imperial Hotel, as I checked in, they said in every trip, every first-timers trip in India, one must stay at the Imperial Hotel and visit the Taj Mahal. That's kind of like it's their big motto. So, tell you all with the Taj Mahal, it's one of those iconic creations of humanity that we've put in our cover more than any other. I can just show you a few that Lynn Hughes, our founder there at the back, has brought in today. I usually am prepared to be underwhelmed by some of those icons, if you like, when you see them in real life, right? And we've seen the Taj Mahal so many times. We see it so often. It is, we know its architectural importance. You hear the stories. And it's got over 50,000 visitors a day, most days. So it's not a secret. It's crowded. And yet, as you take those first steps past that gate, and you see that glistening white oasis, you feel proud to be human, to have humanity achieve a level where we can create masterpieces like the Taj Mahal. Makes you feel like we are a species that doesn't just do war and bomb each other, but we are capable of such incredible creations. So as I was walking with goosebumps all over me into a place that I had seen hundreds, if not thousands of times, I really felt that there are stories in India that have shaped the way that we experience the history and humanity as a whole. And that is one of those special places.
So these are just scenes as you go through. We visited the Taj Mahal first thing in the morning, at dawn, during the day, in the evening.
4 times in total, because I didn't want a quick in and out. It says this is one of these monuments, you've got to take it in. And I encourage you to do the same. When you go to a place, it's not just, let's take photos, see it, and leave. You need to really appreciate, when you're talking about masterpieces like this one. And High Commissioner, I do have a complaint here. It's probably one of my few complaints from India. Why are those bloody fountains never on? It ruins it, it spoils it. It's that little element of perfection. I would have loved the water element, because that water element was so integral in the design of this. And it doesn't cost much. Just get those water fountains going, please.
Yes. But this is the number of people that come and visit. But you want to see that. You want to know that local people appreciate the monuments as much. And I think, George, you commented on this as well, that it was wonderful to see not just overseas visitors coming along, but local people there as well. We, apart from visiting the monument itself, We went across the river. We took a boat out. This is the
Taken a boat?
happiest
Has anyone
George
taken that
looked.
boat? Anyone has been on that boat across from the Taj Mahal? So I've had
One
two.
person.
It's quite special.
Ah, good. Our photographer's been. We'd like to see your pictures. Yes. So, but this was a very special thing, and I think we will encourage more and more clients to do this. Take out these special little things. We also went across the river into the Mehtab Gardens. These were the gardens designed across the river to show the full beauty of the Taj, and this was a sunset image. Okay, we'll go back to this. And one of the things people usually do is reserve just one day for Agra. I think it deserves a little bit more, and it absolutely you want to be seeing something more.
One of the key sort of recommendations I have is even just don't rush it. Don't rush your travel overall. At Wanderlust, we've been advocating slow travel for a while. But, you know, the memories, it's not just about taking a list. I've been to Agra, seen the Taj Mahal. When you go to a destination, just immerse yourself in it. Spend time. See it well, understand it. The more you see it, the more those memories will matter, the more they will stick around. You know, we have so much coming our way. So many images, so many facts. It really mattered for me to spend time and experience all of Agra and what it had to offer. Because it wasn't by random that they just built that masterpiece over there, was it?
Absolutely not. We headed off to the Agra Fort, one of the most impressive buildings. Just the sheer scale and size of the trees here, the people and the fortifications you can see. But really the beauty of the Red Fort lies inside. It's not just a garrison, it's not just a place for protecting oneself. The beauty inside, the inlay work and so on within the Red Fort was something that you were surprised at. This is where really a mix of the red stone and marble came together, and you can see it in one place. Taj Mahal was all white marble, but this is where the two come into fusion with one another, and there was a great deal of it. You also get impressive views of the Taj Mahal from the Red Fort, and I think, George, this is again one of yours. Images.
You like different perspectives, you know, it's kind of like surprising people. I had not seen a view of the Taj printed anywhere like this. So, yeah.
But you can see even here, and we were there in late October, no, we were there early October, but it was lush and green, and this is what we want to get across to people, that it is a clean, green, fresh place, not just Delhi, but also Agra. This was an external view of the Itamud-Daulah, and this is the precursor to the Taj. This is where you got excited about the artwork, because...
I mean, it's kind of like, it's the origin story, right? It's that the Taj Mahal didn't just came into existence one morning, didn't someone woke up and say, I'll create this. There were a series of attempts by other architects, you know, of the court, to create magnificence in the buildings. And this smallest structure, it really is worth the visit because it's so exquisite in its work. I have not seen these photos, by the way. This is all on Amrit's phone. I'm just, I sent a few, but all of those photos of myself, I'm really embarrassed, Amrit. I've got to tell you, you did not tell me. The one in the boat and all that.
But this is where...
Exactly. The marble inlay work that you see in there really served as the archetype for what would later be the design for the Taj Mahal. So that was where the inspiration came from. And again, as you can see, there are very few people there. One of the things that surprised me, for a country that's the world's most populous, outside of the Taj Mahal, which was busy, as you saw in the photos, we had some of the sites to ourselves. It's incredible. You know, go to some of the sites here in Europe or you know, in the US or even in Asia, you know, and you will be fighting hard for space, for room to breathe. That was not the case in India. I was very surprised. And of course, it also shows how much potential the destination has for you know, growing its tourism numbers and a good quality, because obviously numbers don't matter. It's the quality of visitors that does. Beautiful.
some of the artwork
The ceiling,
within
yes.
the Itamodola. Of course, there was the marble inlay places. You can buy a lot of this. This replicates small little portions of the Taj Mahal and all the other places within Agra. You can see it being built or created,
Yeah.
and how the artisans make it all happen.
So there are still families in Agra that derive from the families of the artisans that made the Taj Mahal what it is. And there are two of them. I'm not going to give them advertising. You can just go on our website and find out who these two are that are specialized in it. Both of them friends, personal friends of Amrit, so we were welcomed with a lot of fanfare, that have an art that was invented by the Italians but perfected by the Indians. And unfortunately, the art has been lost in Italy right now. It's really, most of it is actually made mechanically, most of the marble inlay, but not in India. It's still handmade, it's still an art form that survives there. And it's just extremely complicated, intricate work that takes a long time, but it's just so special.
It is. And of course,
Oh,
there's
God.
a little bit you can buy. We'll shoot through those. Fatehpur Sikri, the abandoned city, I think, again, one has to make a stop here en route into Jaipur. As we headed out, we stopped and took a look here. One of the most ornate places that you can
Have you visited
see.
Fatehpur?
And especially a lot of school children in the background with teachers telling history. And I think we were...
And internal tourism is very big in India now, and that's a great thing because people have to take ownership of their culture and history. I'm originally from Greece myself. Most Greeks, unfortunately, have been priced out from visiting their country in the summer. It's a reality. It's a very sad reality. It means that unless we travel in the off-season, it's almost impossible for people to travel in the Greek islands, the ones that you know and love in the summer, for the average Greek that is particularly post-economic crisis. That's why I really appreciated the fact that Indians have ownership of their sites, and ownership in terms of they are the majority of the visitors there. It's something to really be proud of, and hopefully it won't change.
Dual entrance fees. Overseas visitors pay a little bit more, and national visitors pay much less. And it was discussed about 20 years ago by India Tourism, and I think all tour operators said absolutely fine. We would go to the Tower of London and pay at that stage about £20. It's a lot more now. Why not pay that for the Indian monuments? And nationals certainly can pay their 50 rupees, 100 rupees for access, which I think is a fabulous idea. This is our room. We had to show this one, George, with you garlanded. These were the views from your room of the Taj Mahal. Did you enjoy the accommodation here?
And that's the magic of traveling with a tour operator like Transcendus, because it wasn't just myself as Wanderlust. I've spoken about the perks before, but I know Urane's upgrades and special perks, if you like. One of them is staying at the Oberoi in Agra. Has anyone stayed at the Oberoi in Agra? Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, we've got one hand. You must add that in your list. It's one of the world's greatest hotels. And again, very affordable. It's as much as a Friday night stay at the Holiday Inn across the road, and you get this incredible view, because every room has a view of the Taj Mahal. And at night, it's not illuminated, but as you can see from this photograph, somehow it's still visible. I call that the Taj magic. You can't escape it. It's there. Even at night, it glistens. We were lucky to have a bit of moonlight as well.
We're going to race through and
we don't
head
have a lot of
off
time. Yeah.
into the Chandbari stepwells. This is a little backwater en route to Jaipur, and we took a stop here. You were not prepared or equipped for this, and you hadn't seen anything of this, and I think this is something that people miss out as well. So you need to go into these hidden gems. just an hour's drive outside of Jaipur. Did you?
It was just, again, one of those unexpected stops that was not in my itinerary. I loved, the little surprises there and being, your flexibility without spending that. Step wells are obviously a very big thing in India, as you know. Unique to India, that's a type of architecture we don't have in many other places outside of the Indian subcontinent. And this is one of the finest examples on the drive between Agra and Jaipur, which, as you said, is a really easy and comfortable drive as well. I was not anticipating that. The transfers in the Golden Triangle. If you have been in the Golden Triangle a few years ago, if you go now, you will not recognize the ease of travel between the three main stops.
Absolutely. Yeah. This was our arrival by vintage car at the Rambagh Palace, again one of the iconic hotels of India. And it was worth putting this here. And
so this one's a little bit more expensive. That's on the £400 to £500 mark. But you really are staying in Maharaja's palace. It is an incredible hotel by any standard. The service is fantastic. It comes from the heart as well. Absolutely. And you really feel you're part of the history in that.
Surrounded by gardens, and it's Jaipur in itself is a very old city, certainly, but it's quite congested, and it is there's a lot of movement within the city. But once you get inside the Rambagh Palace, it's a little oasis. We're heading up to Amber Fort now, just on the outskirts of Jaipur, and this is one of the largest fortified forts.
Second largest in the world.
Yes. And here we are, way up in the balconies, a lot of you there. But it's the Mughal Gardens.
I promise you, we're going to have words afterwards.
But I wanted to make sure people knew you'd been there, you see, George. Now, here we are within the gardens. Now, again, these were the private gardens, the Queen's palaces in the background there. But what we really wanted to show was the difference here. The art form of combining different stones had evolved by the time we'd arrived at the Amber Fort. And the scale of it is what was amazing. And you wanted to see this perspective. Oh no, we've headed out now. But from the Amber Fort, you can see all of Jaipur and the surroundings. But local people, again, are there, school children are there, and some of them come into the fort for worshipping, because there are various temples inside. But just behind the Amber Fort is a little village. And the village has a very interesting textile museum there. And I think you were very keen again on textiles.
I think one of the exciting things about India is that it probably is one of the world's most rich arts and crafts destinations. If you've been, you know, no one can live without really serious shopping done, if you like. It's artisans that go back many generations. We spoke about marble inlay. You've got textiles, you've got woodwork, you've got stonework. Anything you want to decorate your home with, it's probably refined and one of the best of its kind that you can find in India. A real surprise, if you like, for those that haven't been. And it's part of the trip. You've got to make part of the trip. And I blame Amrit because she knows all the places, so we had to stop everywhere, and everyone knew her. And you know, they just welcome you with tea and cakes. If you've been, you know the drill. But the difference is there is no expectation of purchasing anything, which is something that you get a lot more in North Africa or the Middle East. I found Indians to be really kind of like welcoming, and just seeing you smile and happy is very often enough.
It is India, and India is known for its hospitality. And as we might experience a little later, this was the city palace. The flag is flying, means the royal family are in residence there. It was a beautiful sunny day that we visited. And it is a juxtaposition of such beauty and then local people and work going on there. And then make sure that you go into the private rooms. I'm not sure how many people here have been into some of the private rooms. They charge a little bit extra for special access to these rooms, but these are the rooms that you must visit. George, how impressed were you with these?
It was a highlight. The City Palace. Have you visited the City Palace? No? Yes? Yes, you're nodding. Have you been in the special part of the City Palace? Which is kind of like, yes, you have been. So you know what we're talking about. It's a secret with tour operators, and that's why I tend to say to people, particularly for the first few times, first dozen or so times of visiting India, you need to do it with a good tour operator because they make things happen for you. And let's face it, it's not the easiest for independent travel, and it shouldn't be because it is the world's most populous country. That part of the experience, again, we had it to ourselves. Look at that. Where do you start? Where do you start to describe the beauty? The way that the stonework, the precious stones that are actually precious stones, the gold, the plastering work is incredible. You've got glass details. You have fantastic textiles on the floor. It just, you didn't know where to look. You didn't know where to focus.
It was just overwhelming. I think it is overwhelming. These were just some of the shots that we took as we wandered through the city. The Prince Albert Museum, that was, the building is beautiful, but I think inside the museum was a little bit disappointing, so we might need to upgrade.
I think that was my feedback on all of India's museums. I would say it's fair to say they have incredible exhibits, but they really need a refresher, and they probably haven't redone them in the last 100 years. So, but give them a chance, please. You know, there are some real jewels and hidden treasures behind the dusty display cases, and this is one of the world's greatest museums for Indian art, right there in Jaipur, alongside the National Museum in Delhi.
The antiquities within were mind-boggling.
Absolutely,
but it was just the displays that we needed. So look past that, but look at the antiquities. They are absolutely
I know that we are reading now that there is culture and the display of the country's heritage is a big priority for the government. So I'm hoping in my next visit I will be, and we will all be seeing some better displays, some better displayed artifacts. We should get the British Museum to tell us how it's done. They have great tradition in taking things and displaying them well. You know? I would be hesitant in bringing them over to India. You never know what they're going to come back with.
They might loan them to. Of course, these are the pictures. I'm going to shoot past the next one. These are, quintessential images of Jaipur that you want to see, and then you want to see yourself smiling at them. But this is, people miss out on the Jantar Mantar. This is, sorry, not the Jantar Mantar, this is the Royal Observatory. And it really is absolutely beautiful. We had a wonderful guide here who was able to explain the workings and the mechanism of this. And I think it's the one place that does deserve a good bit of time.
Absolutely, and I think this is an opportunity for you to discover the contribution of India to the world's sciences and astronomy, astrology combined, right? So, because they combine the two, it's a really interesting one. The level and depth of knowledge taken in by their contacts with the ancient Greeks, also all the different people of the Arabian Peninsula who were very good at that, and they elevated it at another level. So this is still the world's largest open-air observation center. It has not been matched since then.
No, there is a precursor to this, which I've seen in Uzbekistan, the forefathers, or the Timur's Ulugbek Observatory.
But it's much smaller than the one in India, I've got to say, having seen both. The one in India is exceptionally well preserved. You feel it was built yesterday, if you've seen it. And they have renovated it. Renovation is not restored. They have restored it in the last 5 years. So it's actually in a fantastic state.
This also, it was used for as much for astrology as astronomy. And what star sign were you?
In Indian or in general?
In general.
I'm a Capricorn.
Yeah. So what did you find here?
We're running out of time.
We I didn't put the Pisces one in that I was, but this was just outside of Jaipur. If you want to see a little bit of conservation and peace and quiet, just outside Jaipur, about 40 minutes drive away, is the Dera Amar. And this is a small conservancy where they have 4 or 5 elephants that live as a family. And you can go glamping there or just for lunch.
And just to say, they're very ethically treated. There are fantastic principles behind the, how those animals are, their well-being, how they're kept. They, you can't ride them. This is a wholly different experience.
So you can camp here. We didn't camp. Sorry, we didn't camp here, but you can camp if you wish. Then, of course, there is just the shopping part. There's a great deal of arts and crafts in Jaipur, jewelry being made. You can buy a lot of miniatures or see them in the museums.
You see, that's a Christmas card that we just bypassed down in the Rajasthani. Isn't it interesting?
Miniature painting.
It's a miniature painting. But it's actually a Christian scene.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was one of the most special ones we came across.
Yep. And then within the city palace boundaries, they have artisans sitting there producing art, and you can buy it from them or commission something if you wish. They were quite expensive. I'd watch myself.
Consider something missing from this conversation, and that's food. Which was a real highlight to it all. And the exciting thing is that you will all get to try Baluchi's specialties after this, so bear with us for a little bit longer. Baluchi is one of the best restaurants in London. Are we running out of time?
I was just going to ask, how are we doing for time, Jasprit? We're over our time, but do we have any time for questions? A couple of questions. George, would you be happy to take any question?
I'm very happy to take questions. And
is there anything? No, I think you're going to be lucky because people are wanting to, I think, go across the room.
Hi. I was wondering how the upheavals of the pandemic had changed your approach to tourism and if you're promoting things like longer stays with digital nomads.
How things have changed in India. One of the things that changed through the pandemic was that India did remain closed for quite a while, but people couldn't come in or go out. And Indians are great for holiday makers. So they traveled within the country an awful lot, and they kept all the hotels alive and all the sites alive. So that was one of the benefits of the pandemic for India in itself. As far as post-pandemic, we're still very much in the last throes of the first year. And what we've seen as a company is that people are traveling, firstly, from overseas, and secondly, they are traveling a little bit slower, and they are taking things in a little bit more in detail. And that's the way we would like to encourage travel to continue. If they're going into Kerala, they will just stay in Kerala and perhaps do less than what they might have done before. And they're not combining it with too many places. They're keeping travel limited to within a small area. And I think that benefits the local area, and it also encourages people to take a second and a third visit when it comes. George, from the magazine's perspective, what would you say?
I think absolutely. We're encouraging everybody to stay longer, travel slower. But to be frank, what we saw immediately post-pandemic was people rushing to hit off their bucket list. More places than, places that are famous around the world got inundated with people. Again, I'm Greek, I'll use the example of the Acropolis. Oh my God. If you had seen some scenes in Greece and Athens this summer, I was like, what is happening? So we are hoping people will travel slower, stay longer and all that. We haven't seen it everywhere. I'm glad that your clients are like that. We obviously advocate this. But you mentioned about the digital nomad. I think India is a great place for that. Obviously the costs are much lower. People are really welcoming. and you have fantastic Wi-Fi connection everywhere and great signal. So that's what you need. Great food, great welcoming people. It's a really nice alternative destination you don't hear often. I just don't know what incentives the Indian government has in place if you could get the visas, but I think it's a great destination for you to consider.
Well, the e-visas are fabulous. They're simple to get now, and we're very grateful for them. Absolutely, yes. That is lovely. True, very true. Yes.
You've covered the classic sort of locations. In a way, I'm a bit disappointed because, I was hoping you'd come up with some ideas about, where India's so vast, where are the areas that you feel are exciting to visit but neglected by tourists?
But George, I think we should really actually talk about, first of all, where you might like to travel first or where I might like to take you next. And you're quite right, it is a vast place and we should really talk about it. Usually a first-time visit, and I would always advocate it, see the classics and then consider your next step. Often, too often, Kerala is the next step for people, and that's thoroughly enjoyable, but it's relaxing. It doesn't show the history. It does, however, show a wonderful culture. And my choices for a second-time visit would be a toss-up between Hampi in the south. This is the Vijayanagar Empire with these beautiful high-rising temples and monuments and absolutely awe-inspiring structures. Or Ladakh, which is pristine and in the top of the Himalayan mountains, and it's our own little Shangri-La. Of the two, where might you prefer, George?
Sure, it would be Ladakh for me. You know this, Bhutan is very much in the news. I was there in October, and it's great, but I feel like it is now becoming very, very popular. There's nothing wrong with that. Just that when you started talking to me about Ladakh and Leh and the monastic traditions there and how it's probably one of the purest forms of Tibetan Buddhism still outside of Tibet that I had the chance to visit 15 years ago, I think that would be a place I would really like to see. You know what, of course the classic, the Golden Triangle is, it can be many things and can include many different stops, so that's one of the areas that we want to encourage people to see. Even if you have done it, it's actually changed a lot in how accessible many of the sites are and how
Correct, yeah.
Different and varied some of the stops you will be making are. So even if you have done that years ago, it's actually a very different experience now than it was before.
Yes, sir. Certainly. That would be wonderful.
So, I'm not saying it as High Commissioner. I've traveled to almost every single province of India with one exception. So, with some experience. Places you can go to, quite easily reach, and that are completely unusual. City break, try Hyderabad. Hyderabad is spectacular. You can reach it very easily. There are direct flights from large parts of the Middle East and Southeast Asia. We don't as yet have a Hyderabad connection from here, but who knows, maybe. It's a hugely modernized city. There are lovely architecture. An IT center, it's got an exciting cuisine of its own. Unusual, offbeat, try the Run of Kutch. You can fly into Gujarat from Ahmedabad, you can go directly from here. The Run of Kutch, well, not in summer, it's blistering hot. But in winter, you've got flamingos, you've got a completely unusual topography. It's like being on the moon because nothing grows there. And you've got some fantastic glamping tourism options. In terms of wildlife, try Kaziranga in Assam and stay on Majuli Island, the world's biggest riverine island. Assam itself, again, it's the melting pot of the Northeast. The cuisines there will be like nothing on earth that you've ever tried before. Absolutely spectacular. Some of the hottest chilies in the world. On the Scoville scale, these are the third hottest chilies in the world, the hottest naturally grown chilies. You could actually use it as a bioweapon if you wanted to. No, I'm joking. Please don't tell anybody I said that. But the food, the wildlife tourism opportunities there, the island of Majuli, the culture in Assam, it is simply out of this world. Just 3 ideas.
That's amazing. Thank you. I think that. Yeah. There are an unending number of places to travel to in India. I mean, I suppose we could ask people here which is the most exotic place that they've been into India.
We'll be asking that.
That.
I think we're being told we need to move on into the discussion there. I think, obviously, for someone who's a novice in India, as I was, I managed to fall in love with it. And hopefully tonight you saw some of where that love derived from. Mm-hmm. But the beauty of India is there are so many Indias to discover. And we just heard 3 of the probably 3,000 choices that we would have for trips. You need a great tour operator like Transcendus to do that, to help open your eyes to the beauties of India. I can tell you, I can't wait to be back. I know I've only scratched the surface. And I know for many of you, that was me scratching a surface you've already seen. But hopefully we reignited your love of India, your passion for a destination that offers so much, sometimes is unsung among travelers, and encourage you to not only speak to Amrit and book your trip, but also speak to others and encourage them to visit the destination, because it's one that's worth visiting.
Certainly, Hyderabad, I was speaking of Hampi earlier, but it all combines into the same circuit and makes a fabulous journey. So flying into Bangalore, it makes it all very, very accessible for that. Should we hand over now to Jasprit, please?
Great. Thank you so much. How many of us have fallen in love with India? Oh my God, so much love in the air. We should have had this event yesterday.